Mm. Hey, good morning, friends. Mark Holmes here with my buddy Cowboy Joe Boo, and as always, thank you guys for watching, commenting, and subscribing to the Joe Boo Sports Report. Without you guys, this literally doesn't work. And thank you for joining in on another edition of Don't Sleep on the Dallas Cowboys, because you literally cannot sleep on the Dallas Cowboys. Well, here we are, another weekend without football. But guys, there's not many of these left. I'm excited as can be. Oh my God. Last night, it was almost rabid on the live stream. We had Vosh in here. Vosh, ooh, man, I tell you what, Vosh shut down one of the trolls. There was somebody that was in there talking about him being a loudmouth. I think his name was Trey. And Vosh said, I tell you what, here's the number, call in. And all of a sudden, like a cockroach, he was gone. We never heard from him again. We don't know where he went, but it was a great time regardless. But we had some great conversations about our Dallas Cowboys. Now, right now, we're looking at our team. We've done really, really well this offseason from the standpoint of this is one of the first years that we actually went into the offseason with some cash. We actually went in with $19 million, which is kind of unheard of because in the past years, we were usually about $25 million over the cap. We were having to go through with a Tony Romo or Jason Witten or a Tyron Smith or even a Tyrone Crawford, restructure a contract to get enough money just to get down to zero, to get back in the black. But even though we had $19 million, it still wasn't a lot to work with when you thought that, we got to do something with DeMarcus Lawrence, franchise tag him. You got David Irving, you got Zach Martin, and you got holes to fill in your team. Well, now that the dust is cleared, now that we've made some cuts and moves and things like that, we've signed Zach Martin, we've signed depth on our team that is critical. We still have almost $15 million. And this week coming up, they're going to sit down with DeMarcus Lawrence and try and hammer out a deal. Now, currently, he's franchise tag, one of two defensive ends that are franchise tag, and the number is $17.143 million for 1 year. Now, Kirk Cousins has kind of thrown a whole wrench into the look of the franchise tag. You can gamble on yourself because if DeMarcus Lawrence goes through, plays on that franchise tag, and has another year like he just had, the sky is the limit. He'll break the bank. For the team, if he does do that and you don't have him locked up, it's going to cost you more money down the road. The Redskins basically paid Kirk Cousins $45 million for 2 years. Yeah. So there's actually some advantages to playing on that franchise tag. The disadvantage, of course, is if you get hurt, that's it. Your career's over. You'll never get another dime. You'll get that money this year guaranteed, but there's nothing guaranteed after that. So what would it take to keep DeMarcus Lawrence? And it's funny because people keep thinking that a player is supposed to lowball and take less money than other people. So I had one person say, well, how about we offer him a 3-year, $35 million contract? Why? If he's franchise tagged for 2 years, he'd make more money that way. You're talking about $11 million a year. Why would he accept $11 million a year? When you start looking at some of the numbers, J.J. Watt's got 16, JPP's got 15, Calais Campbell's got 15. Griffin just signed, and Griffin's got about, 7 sacks? $14.5 million. And as we know, salaries like quarterbacks don't go down. Defensive ends, there's not a lot of those guys out there. They're getting a premium. So what he's looking for is a 5-year deal. And hypothetically, if you were to say that's $17 million, you're talking about 80 plus, $1 million contract. And forget about the final number. What really matters is what is the guaranteed money. What I think it's probably going to take And you're going to think I'm crazy, but it's going to take probably about $19 million a year. Let me say that again, about $19 million a year. And that's a big chunk of change. But the risk for the Cowboys, or the benefit for them of negotiating this week, is it's before Aaron Donald and it's before Khalil Mack gets theirs redone. Because I believe those two guys are going to bust the bank and really reset the market. So maybe you sign them and you sign a contract that has, all kinds of incentives and things in there, performance, showing up for training camp, staying off PEDs, weight, so forth, sack totals and things like that. You can make it so it's team friendly. Now, the other advantage for the Cowboys is this. We have $14.8 million in the cap right now. Typically, when the Cowboys do their contract, they're kind of backloaded more. You got cap relief that's coming because the cap will go up about $10 million a year. That's what it's been doing every year. So you're going to have more money next year because of that. You've got $24 million right now that's dead money that will go off your books. That's more money you have right there. And you have currently $15 million. But you don't need that $15 million to do the contract for DeMarcus Lawrence. If you do a contract for DeMarcus Lawrence, this year's cap hit's not going to be a $17 million hit. It'll probably be more like a $7-8 million hit, in which case you've got more money on the cap. The Cowboys could sign him to a long-term deal and have in the excess of over $20 million in cap space. Now, the good news is if you don't spend that, you can carry that over to the next year. So you'll have more money next year because of what you saved this year on the cap. You'll end up losing that dead money, and there'll be a few guys that you're going to end up going that are big salary guys because you've replaced them with young people. This is the way typical teams like a New England will do. They won't hold on to players typically too long. They'll sign them through their prime, and they will keep reloading through the draft with young players. Let certain ones of those guys walk or trade them for other players, but they're constantly reloading. That's why you don't not necessarily see tons of Pro Bowl players in New England. You see a lot of really good guys. It's because they're bringing in young talent and guys that fit a role. And that's what the Cowboys are getting to right now. And I'm excited about it. So from that standpoint, that gives you more flexibility if during training camp, something the Cowboys have done, signing other players towards the end of camp, or if they decide that we're going to make a big move for somebody like, say, Earl Thomas, you've got more than enough money to do a 3-year deal with him, have still cap space if there's somebody else you want to add, and get DeMarcus Lawrence signed into the contract. So we'll have to wait and see what the Cowboys do. Of course, there's the risk, and this is what Vosh and I talked about last night. What if it ends up being a Miles Austin type situation? We know he had back surgery last season. He had the PEDs suspension last season. He had the season before. He had the one sack the season before. So do we have the DeMarcus Lawrence of last year, who stayed healthy all season, played lights out? Or is this going to be a short-lived career because of the back problems? Don't have the answers for that, but that's where the NFL is almost like a crapshoot in Vegas. You roll the dice and you hope for the best and hope that the player can outperform the contract. Either way, you need that guy on your line, because the reality is when teams have to focus on one guy, you're worried about having to double team him. You're worried about having to leave a back end to chip him. You're worried about leaving a tight end there. He makes everybody else across the line better. Because if I have to focus 2 guys on him, it means I only got one guy focusing over here on Tyrone Crawford or Taco or Kona Ely. So collectively, that guy makes everybody else better. We'll have to wait and see what happens. But right now, I got to actually head to D.C. and actually meet up with one of you great fans to look at some work. I'm Mark Holmes. This is Cowboy Joe Boo, and thank you guys for watching the Joe Boo Sports Report. I'll see you soon.